The first thing I noticed about her was the way she wrote. Not what she said, exactly, but how the sentences leaned toward honesty and then pulled back, like a tide testing the shore. On the dating app, most profiles felt like resumes or jokes that had been workshopped too long. Hers felt like a letter left on a kitchen counter. Looking for someone steady, it read. Someone kind, employed, curious about the world, not scared of life's complications. She mentioned liking early morning coffee and long drives through unfamiliar neighborhoods. She mentioned music she listened to when the house was quiet. She didn't mention much else. Her name was Claire. I was 47, living in a rented bungalow on the edge of Columbus, Ohio, working a job in IT that paid well enough and left me tired in a way that felt earned. I had been divorced for 3 years, no kids, no dramatic scars, just a sense that I had waited too long to start over and now didn't want to waste time. When I swiped right on Claire, I did it slowly, like the decision mattered. She messaged first. You seem grounded, she wrote. Or at least your face does. I laughed out loud at my phone, standing in line at a grocery store, and wrote back something about how my face had survived many storms but my personality was still under warranty. It was easy after that. Too easy. We talked about books we'd half finished, about the strange comfort of gas stations at night, about how the Midwest teaches you patience whether you want it or not. She told me she was 45 and lived about 40 minutes away. She worked in administration, which could mean anything. When I asked what she liked about her job, she said, "It pays the bills and doesn't follow me home." That felt like a boundary, so I didn't push. Still, even in those first days, there were pauses. Moments when I'd ask a question and she'd answer the one next to it instead. If I asked about her weekends, she'd say, "Busy but good." If I asked about her living situation, she'd say, "I like my place." Not, "my apartment," or, "my house." Just, "my place," as if it existed in a fog. Her profile had said she was looking for someone unafraid of children. It stood out to me because it was the only mention of kids anywhere, and it was phrased like a general principle rather than a personal circumstance. I assumed nieces, nephews, maybe volunteering. Plenty of people included that line as a test, a philosophical checkbox. I didn't ask. I told her I wasn't afraid of kids, that I liked their questions and their seriousness. She replied with a heart emoji and nothing else. We met for the first time at a coffee shop in a suburb halfway between us, the kind of place with exposed brick and succulents on the windowsill. She was already there when I arrived, sitting with her hands wrapped around a mug, looking at the door like she was bracing for weather. In person, she was softer than her photos, lines at the corners of her eyes that suggested laughter and worry in equal measure. She stood when she saw me, hugged me briefly but fully, like she meant it. "Hi," she said. Her voice was lower than I expected. "Steady." "Hi," I said, and felt my chest loosen. We talked for 2 hours. About everything and nothing. She told me she grew up in Michigan, that she moved around a bit in her 20s, that she liked living near water but had settled inland because life does that. She asked about my divorce with a gentleness that made me answer honestly without bleeding. When I asked about her past relationships, she said, "I've loved and learned," and smiled like that sentence contained 1,000 footnotes. There were moments when she checked her phone, face tightening just slightly, then relaxing again as she set it face down. Once, it buzzed twice in quick succession and she flinched, then laughed it off. "Sorry," she said. "Habit." I wondered whose habits she was carrying. After that, we saw each other every week. Sometimes twice. Dinners that stretched long because neither of us wanted to be the one to say it was late. Walks through parks where the leaves were just beginning to turn, the air sharp with October. She liked to walk fast, like she had somewhere to be even when she didn't. She always drove herself, never invited me to her place. When I offered mine, she'd hesitate, then say, "Soon. I just need a little time." I told myself it was normal. We were adults. We had lives. But the sense that she was holding something back grew heavier the closer we got. It wasn't just the logistics. It was the way she'd sometimes go quiet when I talked about the future, even in abstract terms. If I said something like, "Next summer I want to take a road trip," she'd smile, but her eyes would cloud, like she was calculating variables I couldn't see. When I asked what she was thinking, she'd say, "Just enjoying this." One night, over Thai food in a small place near her town, I finally asked. Not directly, but enough. "You know," I said, stirring my curry, "sometimes it feels like you're standing with one foot out the door. Like you're bracing for something." She didn't answer right away. She looked at me for a long moment, really looked, as if weighing my durability. "I've had to be careful," she said finally. Not everyone is as open as they think they are. I'm open, I said, a little too quickly. She smiled sadly. I know you want to be. That sentence stayed with me. I replayed it on drives home, in the shower, lying in bed staring at the ceiling. I wanted to earn her trust, but I didn't know what the test was. I wondered if she was seeing someone else, if there was an ex hovering, if there was some grief she hadn't named. Once, when we were sitting in my living room watching an old movie, her phone buzzed and she stood up immediately. I need to take this, she said, already halfway to the kitchen. I caught a glimpse of the screen. A contact saved as just a first name, no emoji. I didn't hear what she said, but when she came back, her eyes were wet. Everything okay? I asked. Yes, she said too fast. Then, softer, I'm sorry. I'm here. I believed her, or I wanted to. I noticed other things. She never stayed over. Not once. She'd leave around 10, sometimes earlier, with an apology and a promise to text when she got home. She didn't drink much, always stopping after one glass of wine. She carried herself like someone who couldn't afford to be careless. And then there were the small absences. Weekends when she was busy, but wouldn't say how. Weeks when she was slower to respond, then suddenly all warmth again. I told myself that intimacy doesn't come on a schedule, that people are allowed their privacy. But the longer we dated, the more invested I became, the more the not knowing gnawed at me. I started imagining worst-case scenarios because my mind needed something to hold onto. Maybe she was sick, maybe she was married, maybe she didn't trust me because she had no reason to. One evening in December, snow falling in soft sheets outside my windows, I said something I hadn't planned. I don't need perfection, I told her. We were sitting close, knees touching. But I need honesty, even if it's messy. She went still. I felt her body tense beside me, like a held breath. I am being honest, she said. I know, I said, because I did. But not complete. She looked at the floor. For a moment, I thought she might stand up and leave. Instead, she took my hand, squeezed it, then let go. I'm trying to protect something, she said. And someone. The word someone echoed in my head, loud and unmistakable. Someone, singular or plural, I couldn't tell. My heart started to race. Is there someone else? I asked. She shook her head quickly. No, not like that. Then what? I asked, my voice gentler than I felt. She stood up, walked to the window, watched the snow. When she turned back, there were tears on her face, unapologetic and steady. I can't tell you yet, she said. I will, I promise. I just need to know that when I do, you won't disappear. I swallowed. I thought about all the ways people disappear. The slow fade, the sudden silence, the polite withdrawal. I thought about my own capacity for fear. I can't promise I won't have feelings, I said. But I can promise I won't vanish. She nodded, like that was enough for now. The weeks that followed were both closer and more fragile. We held each other with more intention. We talked about values, about aging, about what it means to choose someone every day. But the unspoken things sat between us like a third presence. I found myself scanning her words for clues. When she said she had to leave early because mornings start fast, I wondered what that meant. When she mentioned school zones, in passing while driving, my chest tightened. Once, in her car, I noticed a small scuff on the back of the passenger seat, like from a shoe. I didn't say anything. I felt like a detective and a coward all at once. The reveal came not in a dramatic confession but in an accident of timing. We were supposed to meet for dinner at a restaurant near her place. I arrived early, texted her that I was there. No response. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I called. It went to voicemail. I was just about to leave when I saw her car pull into the parking lot, too fast, stopping crooked. She got out, face pale, eyes wide with something like panic. I'm so sorry, she said, breathless. I had to. Something came up. It's okay, I said, though my stomach was tight. Are you okay? She nodded, then shook her head. No, I mean, can we sit in the car for a minute? We did. The heater blasted, fogging the windows. She stared straight ahead, hands clenched on the steering wheel. I didn't want you to find out like this, she said. Find out what? I asked, even though my heart already knew. She took a deep breath. Then another. I have 2 kids, she said. The words came out in a rush, like they'd been waiting months for air. A son and a daughter. They're everything, and they're why I've been so careful. The world didn't end, the car didn't explode, but something fundamental shifted inside me, like a lens snapping into focus. All the hints rearranged themselves into a clear picture. The someone she was protecting. The early mornings. The fast starts. The school zones. The scuffed seat, the way she carried responsibility like a second skin. I was afraid you'd think I lied, she continued, voice trembling. I didn't, I needed to know you saw me first. Not just me as a mother. Not a complication. I've had men disappear the moment they hear it. Or worse, they say it's fine and then resent me for it. I sat there, absorbing it, feeling a strange mix of relief and ache. Relief because the mystery had a name now, and it wasn't a betrayal. Ache because I understood, suddenly, how much weight she'd been carrying alone. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, not accusing, just curious. Because once you say it, you can't take it back, she said. And I wasn't ready to lose you. I looked at her, really looked. At the fear and courage coexisting in her eyes. At the love that had shaped her life in ways I was only beginning to understand. I thought about the line in her profile. Not scared of children. It hadn't been a philosophical checkbox. It had been a plea. I need time, I said honestly. Not because I'm scared, but because this matters. She nodded. I know. We didn't go into the restaurant. We sat there until the windows cleared, until our breathing slowed. When I drove home later, the road felt different. Wider, more complicated. I thought about my own life, how neat it had seemed by comparison. I thought about whether I could step into a world that required more of me than I'd ever given. The next day, she texted me pictures. 2 kids, grinning, missing teeth, life bursting out of them. No pressure, she wrote. Just so you know who I am. I stared at those photos for a long time. Then I typed back, thank you for trusting me. We're still figuring it out. There are schedules now, and conversations that include more people, and moments when I feel out of my depth. But there's also a deeper honesty, a tenderness that comes from choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. Love, I'm learning, isn't about the absence of complications. It's about deciding which ones you're willing to hold. And every now and then, when we're sitting together and the house is quiet in that particular way she once mentioned, she looks at me with a softness that feels like gratitude and hope braided together. In those moments, I know the secret she kept wasn't a wall. It was a door, waiting for the right time to open.